copy without his name is enclosed. Now, I just read you that letter. He sounds knowledgeable. He sounds Christian. He sounds patriotic. And in it, he said he was sending his letter to America's Christian leadership and invited the recipient to a meeting in Atlanta, Georgia on February 8th, 9th, and 10th, 1985. And he said this will be a closed meeting, and no one but myself will know that you're coming. Now, enclosed is a 2-page letter written 1 year ago to Christian patriots warning them not to gather at a meeting proposed by another patriot named Walter White. Now, its arguments against White's meetings are valid against the meeting proposed by this other man. And I'm going to add this. Our enemies have now launched a national smear campaign against all Christian patriots. They have charged several people with detestable crimes such as murder, robbery, assault, and resisting arrest. And they have arrested several, killed a few, and then identified them as Christian patriots. And then they have written extensive newspaper articles trying to connect those individuals with other Christian patriots or other Christian patriotic groups. The articles are liberally sprinkled with the words neo-Nazi, racist, Jew haters, black haters, and so on. And their goal is to convince the majority of American people that there is a Christian patriot conspiracy to overthrow the government. Those which are convinced of that will then hate and fear and stay away from any Christian or Christian group that they hear who speak of patriotism or love of country. They will neutralize many people and make them afraid of speaking about patriotism, lest they too be branded as part of this horrible Christian patriot conspiracy. Now, do you remember their charge against Jesus? They charged that Jesus was against Caesar, against the government, and then they killed him, and the people were afraid to oppose them. The best thing that could happen for their side is to have some Christian patriot commit some violent and illegal act, and then trace that fellow directly to Christian patriot leaders or other groups. They could then say, see, they're all in this together. It's a criminal conspiracy. Now, if many patriot leaders were to meet as invited, then if any one or two persons at that meeting were to commit some illegal act shortly thereafter, it is almost certain that all who had attended that meeting would be arrested and charged with conspiracy in relation to that crime. And the ones who committed the illegal act could be agents of the government. It's called entrapment. And it works. And in that manner, they could then eliminate the leaders all at once, and the brainwashed public wouldn't know what had happened. After all, they were all at the meeting just before the crime was committed, weren't they? Would it work? You bet. A second and perhaps simpler way to destroy the patriot leadership would be to simply move in and arrest the whole group at the meeting, no matter what the charges, even if all spent their life savings in a year or two in prison, and if they were all found to be innocent by a jury. The leadership of the Christian patriots would have been destroyed. So read the arguments against Walter White when he proposed such a meeting, and then read about it. And don't go to any of these meetings where the inviter has written out and published such reasons for a meeting. The later publishing of that letter alone would be enough to provide the basis of a smear job, even if the inviter is innocent. The events which could follow could be disastrous. The enemies of Christians are cruel and they're devious, and we need to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. That was the letter that Sheldon Emery wrote back in response. Years ago in the Bay Area, there was a group of anti-war people.
All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barak Yahawa, Ba'ashem YAHAWASHI, Ba'ashem Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. This one is called Beware of Infiltrators. and pretty much infiltrators, spies, whatever you want to call them. You're gonna have that, in this Israelite truth and doctrine that's being taught. Now, what you were listening to was a man by the name of George Gordon. He did a section called Groupies, dealing with that herd mentality, where everybody, you have certain individuals that want to gather everybody into one specific location. And this is a tactic that's been used by the enemy many, many times. When you go back to the history of, I believe her name was Anakaona, which was a Ephraimite woman from, she was one of them top women, and she gathered all the caciques, which are all the leaders, and brought them to a so-called meeting with Esau, and I believe they killed them all, burnt them all, something like that. So that was an example of groupies. And this is what Esau does. He tries to get everybody concentrated into one place so he can get everybody's information so they can keep tabs on everybody, to be able to know who to grab, so to speak, when the time comes, to know who is affiliated with this particular group, and this is why you have certain groups out there that'll take your slave name, first and last. They'll take your social security number, where you work at, your pay stub and all that bullshit, because pretty much some places are pretty much gathering information of all its members to report to the government. Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases. All right. So this particular segment is called Groupies, and he goes into different scenarios of or instances where you had groups of people that were gathered together, and infiltrated, or in some cases killed, incarcerated, lost everything. I tried to look for it on YouTube. I just did a quick search. I didn't find anything. This is something that I actually had downloaded off of YouTube. It's a pretty good listen. If you brothers can find it, you might be able to go on the internet and type in George Gordon Groupies. He's passed, since I'm not sure how many years ago, but it's a very good listen, because it shows you that herd mentality, and most people will trust everybody that comes in their path, because a lot of people have that trusting spirit, but that trusting spirit can get you destroyed. And this is why you have to be circumspect. You have to watch what's going on. You have to be careful of who you let in your circle. You have to pretty much watch people, and it's not a thing of making brothers paranoid, but it's a thing of watching certain guys, the way they move, the way they operate, the way they do things. And as you heard him here, he say, that they'll write a letter to certain people to come to, and just the acceptance of that letter alone can have you be a part of it. Then you come to the meeting, and everybody in the meeting, now you're on the hit list, or you might get put to death that particular day. When you watch the movie They Live, you had a bunch of people that gathered together, towards the end of the movie. You could say more like in the middle, kind of going towards the end. They had an actual meeting to where, all the people that believed in that particular conspiracy, or whatever the case that was going on, which really wasn't a conspiracy, it was facts. They actually got together, and the police stormed the place and started shooting and killing a whole bunch of them. It's fictional, but it's actual truth to it, so you got to be careful with that. And this is growing based around, the situation you brothers see going on right now with HOI and the ISUPK and different other groups out there that are pushing, guns and going to the gun range and, putting up stuff that can be that can have the public get a wrong view of what's really going on, And and we're about teaching the truth, bottom line, and that's a good scripture, brother GMS, feed the flock, 1 Timothy 5:22, lay hands suddenly on no man, neither be partaker of other men's sins, keep thyself pure. You know, because, you know, you have some guys that will have, you'll see somebody with a beard, you know, with a garment on, they say shalom, you know, and all of a sudden you just, oh, he's a brother, you know, just stick him in there. Nah, he's got to be proven, you know, you got to, you know, prove this man to see if he's really a sincere brother, you know, and for the most part, you know, the spirit, you know, has your spidey senses exercise and, you know, tingling, so to speak, to know now something about this guy ain't right. You know, you may find out right away, or it may take time to finally, you know, for the guy to be revealed. But in any case, you know, these things, that's a good one too. Try the spirit in 1 John 4:1. Try the spirit to see whether they are of the Most High or not. So if your brothers do find this, you may have to go online to look for it. George Gordon Groupies, he has the archives, you know. I'm pretty sure they're still up on the website, on his website. But anyways, I looked up the term infiltrator, right? And the term infiltrator is a person who secretly becomes part of a group in order to get information or to influence the way the group thinks or behaves. And when you know about the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church has something known as the Jesuits. Now, the Jesuits are men that are trained they're trained to pretty much infiltrate different religions to turn them away from the tenets of their religion to the tenets of the Roman Catholic religion, which what it is they're infiltrating that particular religion, you know. And this goes for anything. It goes for you know, these so-called radical revolutionary groups, you know, different groups out there that get together, you know, just for the sake of maybe speaking about the government, you know, and things that are going on. You know, for the Israelite, you know, for Israelites, you know, they'll infiltrate it to try to switch and change it around. This is why you have many groups out there that have changed the doctrine completely. They changed they took the names of the Most High, Yahawah, and his son YAHAWASHI out of the equation. You know, they are, and then you notice mostly they're putting in Roman Catholic dogma into their organization, so to speak. Just like with Comfy, you know, Comfy, when One West was set up, you know, we never taught about the virgin birth. We never taught about none of that crap, you know. But once, you know, the men of the Lord were out of there, you know, there's still some men of the Lord that are left. They started to change the doctrine, but the first thing they changed was they took the name of YAHAWASHI out of the equation, and then they took the name of Yahawah out of the equation, you know. And then slowly but surely you started noticing that everything that they did and they taught started to resemble the Roman Catholic Church, but just with an Israelite twist. And this is what happens, you know, when you have infiltrators that come into this thing. Now, this is from Media for Justice. This is how to spot an infiltrator in your movement. You know, and once I read some of this, you know, I'll jump into some of these precepts. All right. So this was dated March 19, 2017. This was about little less than 2 years ago. It says there has been a lot of talk about agent provocateurs and infiltrators into movements such as Fees Must Fall and other leftist groups. This should not surprise us. It is clear that no movement would be devoid of plentiful infiltrators in this day and age, and that some of them would be conspicuous on the picket line and found in organizational capacities within the struggle. And the thing about an infiltrator is he has to make the most noise. He has to make the most impact, you know, because he has to be recognized by the leadership of whatever particular group he's trying to infiltrate, so that they could look and say, yeah, this guy, you know, he's all right, man. You know, he's devoted, you know, he's pious, you know, he's diligent, you know. And slowly but surely he gets into there and gets information to destroy that particular group or organization. In this case, being the Israelites, and you have spies out there, you have infiltrators out there that are their only purpose is to destroy what YAHAWA has built, but they can't do it because they'll be fighting against the Most High Himself. This is Galatians 2:4, real quick. It says, "And that because of false brethren unawares brought in, who came in privily to spy out our liberty." So you have some that have taught this word to certain guys, and that was a way for them to get into that particular organization. That's why we don't have any schools anymore. We used to have a school. Used to have spies that came to the school, and we, through the Spirit, the apostles spotted them. Elders spotted them. And eventually, we said, well, look, you can't come around anymore. Because two brothers had a dream that you were Edomite or you were a Hamite or whatever, and you got to go. You didn't have to tell them straight up that we knew that they were spies. It says that who came in privily to spy out our liberty, which we have in Hamashiach Yahawashi, that they might bring us into bondage. And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to stop this truth. They're trying to stop this word. Whether it be for Satan himself, whether it be for the government, or whether it be to another Israelite group. Because you best believe you have Israelite groups out there that send spies into different schools to try to sway them back to a particular group that the infiltrator came from. Now let's go to some of these. It says throughout modern history, radical movements such as the Black Panther, anti-apartheid, and Occupy have been plagued with infiltrators and agent provocateurs. But nowadays, when the matter of infiltrators or moles is suggested in South African context, there is a tendency to push it aside as an exaggeration or paranoia. And that's what they do. They try to cast doubt. That's what they'll say. Oh, you guys are paranoid. You guys are scared. You guys are this, because they're trying to divert the attention from the matter at hand. It's a case of wag the dog. When there's focus on one situation that an individual has done, and then something else comes up to divert the attention from that particular individual. And this is what's happening in a lot of cases. People are doing certain things to try to pull away the attention from the main issue at hand, or the hardline issues. It says, and thus agents are given the space to carry on with their business without scrutiny. However, the global problem of state-funded agents is as rife now as it ever was. And I believe this is like problematic, or I just looked it up. I don't have the greatest memory in the world. Pretty much widespread. Okay, it says widespread here. Ubiquitous, so it's everywhere. All right. So now, as it ever was, so it's pretty much everywhere, and it is perhaps even more so as neoliberal governments are intent on smashing any uprising, individual or organization that threatens their share-based partnership with monopoly capital. And this is what's happening, because what we're out there doing, teaching His word, it's a threat to the established government, to the established to their goals of the so-called New World Order. But what they don't understand, that this is the Lord putting the Spirit on us to do this, because the Lord is first going to reveal them by His mouth, which He has been, and then eventually He's going to bring the sentence, or He's giving the sentence now, and eventually He's going to bring the physical judgment, which is a total annihilation and destruction of America via thermonuclear destruction, thermonuclear missiles, and the lasers that's going to come from the chariots when Yahawashi and the angels come back to take this place out and to deliver their elect. Now let's go down, before we get to some precepts, let's go down to some of these ways that you can spot an infiltrator. Number one, a bogus activist or agent appears out of nowhere but becomes a best friend very quickly, ensconcing themselves into the targeted movement seamlessly. And this is why the brother put up the scripture, lay hands on no man suddenly. And that is the truth. You have to scrutinize these men. You know, you can't just have a guy who's walk up the street. And some of you guys, some of you guys are just new to it, so you really don't understand the severity of it. But some of you guys has even been around for a while. You still in simplicity. A guy will just come up and all of a sudden, oh, this brother's cool, man. You know, come on in, man. You know, and next thing you know, you all jammed up because you didn't use wisdom. It says they are quick learners and start to speak the language of the movement in a short space of time. And that's where you got to beware sometimes of them guys that shoot up the ladder too fast. You know, I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. You do have certain men that shoot up the ladder fast. That's the spirit. But you have some guys that are doing that because they're trying to get to the top, because they have an ulterior motive. It says their hairstyle and clothing quickly changes to adapt to the going trends. You know, we always speak about them super duper Israelites. Well, there you go. It says not long after they arrive on the scene, something calamitous happens, which injures the solidarity between members irrevocably. And, you know, you have a dissension among brethren, someone discord among brothers. And with the case of the Jesuits, they went up in there and they try to discredit, you know, the leadership so that they can come in with their bullshit philosophy and doctrine, such as, you know, in the school at One West, when Comfy came in there, you know, which we believe he was paid off. You know, there was information that came out. I mean, we never seen anything tangible, but just based off of the teachings that they teach there now and that what they used to teach before, we know that he sold out. You know, it says this bogus activist is usually at the center of organizing actions around the calamity. And this is why it says beware of them guys, the groupies, that groupie mentality. You know, when you have those unity camps, that's nothing but a groupie mentality. Somebody is arranging that. And now I find it, you know, I got to speak on it. I find it crazy. I just say that. I find it, you know, I mean, it could be a coincidence. I don't know. But now all of a sudden that this whole situation came out, you know, with Sandman, you know, that rat bastard and Nathan Phillips and, you know, the HOI. And then all of a sudden they, you know, Sarnetta that can't stand, he can't stand us. You know, all of a sudden now Baba TV is out and you got Chief Ephraim on Baba TV and they're giving all this coverage to this incident and this situation that's going on down there in DC. I'm just saying, it's just a little strange. You know, I'm just pointing out the facts. That's it, nothing but the facts. It says it is through this that this person's role is created and endorsed in the movement. So they have to do certain things to be accepted, so that for the purpose of infiltrating deeper and deeper into it, they're trying to get in too deep. You know, that's that Donnie Brasco and Jay Reed effect. It says they have come with a mandate, so they gravitate to Shalom. Okay, so you know, these are just some of the tenets, I guess you could say, or some of the ways you could find out, you know, how certain individuals will be infiltrating, you know, the particular movements out there. And like I said, I'm not saying that anybody in particular is a spy or whatever. I'm just, you know, just using this in general, you know, and as you read through here, you'll see different instances, you know, and there's been many, you know, when you go to dealing just with the Jesuits alone, and you know, different organizations like the Black Panthers that were actually infiltrated by certain individuals, you know, and it gives you a whole list. It's about 67 of them, you know, and just ways that you can, you know what's going on. But now let's go to the scriptures. This is the book of Acts, chapter 20, and let's go to Acts 20, and I'll start at 25. And now, behold, I know that you all, among whom I have gone preaching the kingdom of the Most High, shall see my face no more. Wherefore I take you to record this day that I am pure from the blood of all men. Why? Because the Apostle Paul told them everything that you know, that pertain to the scriptures. You know, he warned them of false prophets. He warned them, you know, of situations that were going on. You know, he warned them about men that would infiltrate. You know, he told them about the reward that would come, you know, in the kingdom of heaven if they dealt with the suffering. He told them about the suffering, you know, and this was all part of the doctrine. You know, he warned them about many different things, you know, and exhorted them on many different things, you know, and how to be brotherly one with another, you know, and how to, you know, help each other out, you know, many different instances of that case. It says, for I have not shunned to declare unto you all the counsel of the Most High. It says, take heed therefore unto yourselves. I'm sorry, it says, for I have not shunned to declare unto you all the counsel of the Most High. So he told them everything that was given to him through the Spirit, you know. It says, take heed therefore unto yourselves and to all the flock. Why? Because this is the main thing. The scriptures speak about, you know, when YAHAWASHI told Peter, he said, Peter, lovest thou me? He says, feed my sheep and feed my lambs. So he told him this, what, 3 different times? 3 different times he told him this. Why? Because it is very important to feed the sheep and to feed the flock of the Most High, you know, and teach them the right way, not teach them the wrong way, you know, because, you know, you have Israelites that are waking up that are brand new babies to this, you know, so you have to know like what to feed them, you know, and they're very impressionable when they're young, just like children. When children are young, they pretty much do whatever the parents do. So if the parents have bad habits, guess what? More than likely that child is going to have those same bad habits because they're going to follow after, you know, what the parents are doing. This is why it says, I train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he shall not depart from it. It says, over the which the Holy Spirit hath made you overseers. So the Lord made us overseers, you know, to the flock. Let's go from there to Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 17. It says, obey them that have the rule over you and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls. And that's the case. They watch for your souls because, you know, when you first coming into this, you know, you're still in a learning stage. And this is why it speaks about those that are of full age having their senses exercised to know to discern both between good and evil, you know. But when you're first coming into this as a babe and you're drinking the milk, you don't have that discernment, you know. And this is why it's the job of the leader to guide you in the right direction. It says, as they that must give account, that they may do it with joy and not with grief, for that is unprofitable for you, right? Because that particular individual that's over you, he's supposed to be watching out for your soul, you know, and he has to give account for you know, every one of us has to give account for the things that we've done. All right, so now let's go back to Acts 20 and 28. It says, to feed the church of the Most High, which he hath purchased with his own blood. And this is what it's about. We know we have to feed the church of the Most High, YAHAWA with this truth, with this knowledge, because wisdom, knowledge of thy times and strength of salvation. For I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter in among you, not sparing the flock. So you're going to have those false prophets that are infiltrating this thing, just like they did, you know, with the school, you know, at One West. You know, and it's funny because it's not even there anymore. It says, also of your own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things to draw away disciples after them. And you're going to have the false prophets. You're going to have these different men that are going to infiltrate this, because they are false prophets and they have to play their role. Hey, like Judas Iscariot. Judas Iscariot had to play the role that he had to play. That was appointed for him. There was nothing that he could do to get out of that situation, because that was appointed to him. Matter of fact, let's go to the book. I believe it's 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 8, I believe it is. Excuse me. It says, and a stone of stumbling, which is Yahawashi, has become a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. See, so they were appointed for that. So going back, so that was it on that. So now let's jump from there to the book of Jude 1 and 3. Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that you should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. So this contention or contending is to fight. This is a verbal warfare, verbal war. It's a verbal fight. We're constantly defending the gospel, and to totally be honest, when it comes to the defense of the gospel, or the apologia, as it says in the Greek, Great Millstone is pretty much the leading group that does that. These other guys, sometimes they don't even step up to say anything. They just allow these false doctrines just to be out there without even checking them. It says that you should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. And this is what we're doing, contending for the faith. It says, for there are certain men crept in unawares, and these men that are crept in unawares are those that are spies, those that are false teachers, those that in process of time will fall away. Just like you have the example of the net that caught all types. It caught good fish and it caught bad fish, and you had to throw the bad fish back out. And that's what happens. Eventually something comes up where they get offended at something, or somehow, some way, they either get offended and leave, or they get kicked out for lack of teaching, or for not being on fire for the word. It says, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, and they were ordained to be destroyed. It says ungodly men. Now they'll come in, they'll act like they're righteous men, but when you turn around and look at it, they're not. They're just playing a role. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. It says, turning the grace of our Lord into lasciviousness and denying the only Lord power in our Lord Yahawashi HaMashiach. Because the bottom line, they're really only serving their own belly, their own mind, what they think this thing should be. And this is why you have guys that come in and instead of dealing with the doctrine, they start teaching perverse things. They start teaching different doctrines. They start teaching different philosophies that they were not taught. And the scriptures warned us of this. 1 Timothy 4 and 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. So the Spirit is speaking plainly. Let's look up that word expressly. G4490.
Strong's G4490. Repost.
Repost. It says expressly in express words, outspokenly, distinctly. So it's the Spirit is speaking distinctly. It's given the sound wisdom that there's going to come a time where you're going to have certain men that are going to in the latter times, which we're in the latter times, that shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits. I'll give you one example, that flat earth doctrine. That flat earth doctrine came and went. You really don't hear much about that flat earth doctrine that much. But that's a whirlwind. You know, it came in like a flood. It came in like a tsunami, and it took certain guys with it. And now where is it? It's gone. I mean, you still have certain Edomites that still talk about it here and there, but it doesn't have the force in it that it had back. What was it? A couple of years ago? You know, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It just came and went just like that, and it swept guys with it. So that was part of the seducing spirits that some guys would give heed to. You know, some guys are going to give heed to other seducing spirits, different doctrines that are coming up, that are newly come up, and they'll get caught up in it and roll right along with it. Just like you have Nazariah, and you had Egghead from Detroit. You know, they started changing the doctrine, and you had certain guys that were swept right out with them, right along with them. You know, and the Lord warned us about these things. It says, and doctrines of devils, because they're doctrines of devils. They're not the doctrine of YAHAWASHI and YAHAWASHI. You know, and the scriptures tell you, I'm not sure if it's Acts the 4th chapter or the 3rd chapter. It says that they continued in the apostles' doctrine, because there is a doctrine that was given to men. The Most High himself and Yahawashi himself didn't come down physically in this time to give a particular scroll or something to an individual or individuals to teach out of. It's the same book, it's the Bible, and the Lord inspired certain men to teach and to go into it and to break it down, you know, and that's a guideline that's supposed to be followed. This is Galatians 1:6. I marvel that you are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Hamashiach unto another gospel. So you have certain men that were removed from the grace that they were called into another gospel. And it goes on to say, which is not another. Why? Because it's not another book that they're following after. It's the same book, but it's just a different understanding. Something else came in there and caught their attention, and they didn't follow or keep following Yahawashi's voice. They started following something else. But there be some that trouble you and will pervert the gospel of Hamashiach. So this is where you get your infiltrators, you know, which some of them know they are, but then some of them are used by Satan, and they really don't know that they're gonna go down this route. Just like Judas Iscariot didn't know he was gonna go down that route. It says, but though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. In other words, let curses be put on him. You know, so can you put curses on the Israelite? Yeah. The apostle Paul put curses on guys. He sick Satan after certain guys. You know, Philetus, Hymenaeus, and different other men that used to follow him and that turned away from the gospel. You know, that turned away from the truth. He put curses on them. It says, as we said before, so say I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that you have received, let him be accursed. In other words, let curses come upon him, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen. They're going to be cursed, and they're not going to be able to. They're only going to take the ones with them that the Lord doesn't want, and that's what we read in the book of Acts, the 20th chapter. It says, in the 30th verse, also of your own self shall men arise speaking perverse things to draw away disciples after them. See, so they're only going to take the ones with them that Yahawashi, that the Lord didn't give Yahawashi, because Yahawashi said, out of all that the Lord gave me, I have lost none, save the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled. So the ones that are taken by these guys that teach these false doctrines, they were never given to Yahawashi. Because matter of fact, let's go from there to the book of, let me open up another tab. Let me see, where were we at? Right there, disciples after them. Okay. Let's see. Just lost my train of thought for a moment. If it comes back, I'll bring it back. But let's move on to back to 1 Timothy 4. There was a precept off of this one here that came to mind, but I can't think of it right now. So going back to 1 Timothy 4:1, 4:2, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. Because once you get into them false philosophies, it's very hard to come back out of that. You know, I mean, the Lord has to really be with you for you to get caught up into something and to be able to come back out of it and repent. You know, because once you get caught up in that, it's, you know, the scriptures say being seared with a hot iron. You know, when something is seared with a hot iron, there's no removing that. All right. So now let's go from there to 2 Peter 2:1. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you. So if you see a guy that is teaching a false doctrine in your congregation, you got to mark that man, you know. And if you're a younger man, you know, you got to go to the leaders and let them know what's going on, you know, so that they can handle that situation. And either the brother might just have the wrong breakdown, or he's just going off, and they may have to either get rid of him, or they may have to correct him and set him back in the right place. But we're at the point now where if you're teaching some false doctrine, you know, you already know what the deal is with through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI and great millstone. You know, it says, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies. See, and this is what's happening. And the latest, some of the latest examples is Nazariah and Egghead. You know, we had other, you had Batak, you had Sarge, you had, man, we had so many, you know, you can't even count them all. But the latest, you know, the latest examples of brothers that can remember is Nazariah and Egghead from Detroit. You know, especially that Egghead, because he was always going off. He was always trying to bring in some other bullshit, and brothers would shut it down, you know. And it was just like, from what I remember from One West, you know, from what I was told by the elder apostles, is that Yeshua used to try to bring in the doctrine of hell from time to time. He used to try to bring in certain things in there from time to time. I'm not sure who else it was. Somebody else used to bring in, I think, he just tried to bring in that virgin birth or something along those lines, and they kept being shut down. But once they were gone from that school and they started their own thing, what happened? There was no one there to check them. So they eventually that just came and it popped up. This is why you have Yeshua saying that, you know, if when you die, you know, you go up somewhere in space somewhere. And the first thing that Satan does, you know, when you go to hell up in space somewhere, is he turns you around and pops you in your behind. You know, that's a perverse, damnable heresy. It says, even denying the Lord that bought them. And this is why you have a lot of them guys like the IUIC that don't teach about Yahawashi. They take Yahawashi's name out. They take the Most High Yahweh's name out. And they make fun of those names if you call upon them. Why? Because they denied the Lord that bought them and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And this is why you see what's going on in the IUIC right now. You know, the thing is falling apart. You had one guy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that guy Uzziah, he was on the panel when they kicked out that bald-headed guy, you know, and he was cursing the dude out. But then he turns around and leaves, and he's exposing IUIC. You know, so you have top members among them leaving, you know. So it says, and many shall follow their pernicious ways, because you have a lot of Israelites out there that are woke to being Israelites, but they have no clue of what they're involved in. And they're going to get swept away by these different false prophets. You know, only the elect of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai. Okay, now the scripture came back to mind. Only the elect of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai are going to make it through. Barakatah Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai for that. John 6:44. It says, I start at 43. Yahawashi therefore answered and said unto them, murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me except the Father which have sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. So if you're not given to Yahawashi by Yahweh, he won't raise you up in these last days. You know, you're going to have certain men that wake up to this, but you know what? You have those that are crept in unawares. And then you have the true disciples of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai that are being risen up in these days. You know, it says, it is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of the Most High. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. This goes back to what? this really goes into reincarnation. If your eyes are open to see it, you know, it says, not that any man have seen the Father, save he which is of the Most High, he have seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me has everlasting life. I am that bread of life. All right, so now let's go back to where were we? Okay, 2 Peter 2:2. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And when they start teaching different doctrines about the virgin birth and Cornelius being an Edomite, stuff like that, that's a evil, that's speaking evil of the truth. It says, and through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you. And you have groups out there that are basically making merchandise of Jake. You know, it's all about lining their pockets. It's not about getting Israel ready, for the coming calamities and getting their minds prepared for what's coming. It's about using the masses of Israel to line their pockets. Whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. Okay, so their damnation is not going to slumber, because the Lord is about to open up. And when Jacob's trouble hits, you're going to have some of these false prophets that are going to get caught up in that. They're all going to get caught up into that, but some of them will be around until the missiles drop, because that's going to be their judgment. But some of them will get caught up in this. Some of them will be destroyed by their own congregation, and some of them are going to get got by Esau. And some of them are going to get got by the same things that they told other Israelites that they weren't going to get caught up into, like the Jacob's trouble, and that's one of the main things that IUIC teaches, about Jacob's trouble. They teach that there's not going to be no Jacob's trouble. There's not going to be anything, that's going to happen, to where Jake is going to get caught up in Esau's fangs, so to speak. And they're lying. They're lying to him. All right, so now what else do we have? Matthew 24:9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted. Now, this happened back then, and it's also happening now. This is an example of what happened back then during 70 AD, but there's going to be certain situations similar to this today. So we're using this as like the scriptures say, the things that are written aforetime were written for our learning. It says, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. It says, and then shall many be offended. And we're at this point. There's many are offended. And the scriptures also say that the love of many, what's going to say, the love of many shall wax cold, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. Why? Because they have those words, that what's the word I'm looking for? Enticing words. And they're very charismatic, and they can use the scriptures and bring the scriptures in and make you look or make you think that their doctrine is good, but it's really faulty. It says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So there's a lot of stuff to be endured, prior to YAHAWASHI coming back. And for IUIC to teach that there's not going to be a Jacob's trouble, they're off, because why does it say, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved, if there's nothing to be endured? And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So you got to be aware. You got to be of false prophets, infiltrating into this thing, coming into, and changing the doctrine. You got to be aware. You got to watch. You got to be vigilant, of these things, and if you see something, say something, I mean, you might have a guy that's doing things that he may not realize he's being exposed, and he's just being a demon. You could go to your camp leader, or the men that are around you, especially if you got somebody coming to the camp that's watching and you see some fishy stuff. You keep your eye on that dude, and hey, don't be afraid to send the guy packing. Look, man, you got to go, man. This ain't cool. What you're doing? You got to hit the road, Jack, because that's not what we're about. And this is what happens with a lot of those other groups out there. They don't go into exhortation mode, or should I say, they don't go into correction mode. They don't go into reproof or rebuke mode. They just let everybody do whatever the hell they want. You know, there's a reason why there's many scriptures in the Bible that speak about rebuke and reproof and all of that. Because, you know, there's, when men go off, you're supposed to reprove them and rebuke them in the hopes that they will get it together, you know, and not go down the wrong path that they're going to. Because the leaders that are watching over your souls in sincerity are watching over your souls so that you can walk the right path to be delivered. If you go off the path, it may be harsh on you, may get down on you, be hard on you. But you know what? Eventually, you'll learn to love that man, because you say, okay, you know what? Yeah, he came down on me like that, but you know what? I understand now why that happened. You know, and you're in a better position spiritually than you would have been if that man didn't say something to you. You know, and a lot of those leaders out there are at fault for that, because they're not speaking up. And since we speak up, all we're doing is hating. But we're not hating. All we're doing is telling you the truth. Am I become your enemy because I tell you the truth? So I mean, pretty much that's pretty much all I got. You know, there's many scriptures going into that, but you know, you don't want to beat a dead horse. As a matter of fact, let me go to this last one here. This is Ecclesiastes 11:26. Bring not every man into thine house, for the deceitful man hath many trains, you know, many thoughts. And this is why it says, when you get a friend, you're supposed to prove him. Lay hands suddenly on no man. Like as a partridge taken and kept in a cage, so is the heart of the proud. And like as a spy, watcheth he for thy fall. And this is what these guys are doing, you know, that are false prophets. They're looking for your fall. It says, for he lieth in wait and turneth good into evil. And in things worthy praise will lay blame upon thee. See, of a spark of fire, a heap of coals is kindled, and the sinful man layeth wait for blood. Take heed of a mischievous man, for he worketh wickedness. And this is why you see, when you go to like the yellow vests and different protests like that, you'll see a handful of guys turning up, knocking garbage cans over, breaking windows, starting fires, because they're paid agents, they're agent provocateurs, and they're paid to do that. Least he bring upon thee a perpetual blot, you know, because eventually you're going to get caught up in his bullshit. And a lot of times them guys that start stuff, they slide out the side, and then the guys that follow them be the ones usually that get caught up. Receive a stranger into thine house, and he will disturb thee and turn thee out of thine own house, out of thine own. And the scriptures say to beware of a brother, for every brother is not a brother. You know, so pretty much that's been it. You know, beware of infiltrators, beware of false prophets, beware of guys that are changing the doctrine. You know, there's a difference between a brother going, you know, saying something that's off, you know, and being sincere with it. The scriptures say that there's a man that slippeth with his tongue, but not from his heart, you know. And a man like that is not at fault. He just, he may say something that he may not even realize, you know. So it's each one of our jobs, you know, to correct things that are going wrong. All right. So with that, I hope you brothers have been edified. Until the next time I say shalom.